The great crystal hall on Centauri Prime sparkled with light from 13 different suns. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in their special chairs, each one made for their unique bodies. Some had 4 arms, others had scales that changed color, and a few floated in glass tanks filled with strange liquid. Admiral Kexthal stood in the center of the hall. His tall, gray body towered over most others. 4 red eyes glowed with anger as he spoke to the gathered aliens. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council had ruled the known galaxy. Every species that tried to fight them had been crushed. The humans refused to obey us, Kexthal said, his voice echoing through the hall. They build colonies on worlds without asking permission. They ignore our laws. They say they will not bow to our authority. The hall filled with angry sounds. Some aliens clicked their claws. Others hissed through their breathing tubes. A few made deep rumbling noises that shook the floor. High Chancellor Morvek rose from his throne. He was older than most stars, and his crystal body had grown huge over the centuries. When he spoke, his voice was like rocks grinding together. These humans think they can challenge us, Morvek said slowly. They are wrong. We have destroyed civilizations that were older and stronger than them. We will add their worlds to our empire, and their people will serve us or die? The other council members nodded their agreement. They had seen this many times before. Young species would try to stand up to the council. They would fight for a while, then surrender when they realized how powerful their enemies were. Send them one final message, Morvek commanded. Tell them to surrender all their outer colonies. Tell them to accept our rule. If they refuse, we will show them why the galaxy fears us. On the far side of the galaxy, Earth was having a normal morning. The sun rose over the Pentagon, the massive building where Earth's military leaders worked. Inside, Admiral Jake Morrison sat at a long table with his top officers. They were all watching a screen that showed the alien message. Morrison was 55 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had fought in the Mars Rebellion 20 years ago, and the scars on his hands showed he had seen real combat. Next to him sat Colonel Lisa Martinez, a sharp woman who ran the military's intelligence division. Her job was to know everything about their enemies. General Rick Sullivan sat across from them. He was older than Morrison, with a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. Sullivan had fought in more battles than anyone else in the room. He was the kind of man who smiled when the enemy showed up. The alien message played on the screen. A translator's voice spoke the words in English. Humans of the Sol System, you will surrender your outer colonies immediately. You will accept the authority of the Galactic Council. You will pay tribute to us and follow our laws. You have 48 of your Earth hours to comply. If you refuse, we will destroy you. The room went quiet. Everyone looked at Admiral Morrison, waiting for his response. Morrison leaned back in his chair and rubbed his chin. He had been expecting this message for months. Well, Morrison said finally, I guess they think they're scary. Colonel Martinez pulled up a file on her tablet. Sir, our deep space monitoring stations are picking up massive fleet movements. All 13 Council species are mobilizing their warships. We're looking at the largest alien armada in recorded history. She tapped her screen and numbers appeared on the wall display. Best estimate is 50,000 ships, maybe more. They have planet-killer weapons, antimatter bombs, and energy weapons that can melt entire moons. Sullivan leaned forward and grinned. 50,000 ships, huh? That's cute. Do they think that's enough? Morrison stood up and walked to the window. He could see the Potomac River flowing past the building. Somewhere out there, millions of humans were going about their normal lives. They were working, playing, raising families. They trusted their military to keep them safe. Lisa, Morrison said without turning around, what do our colonies look like right now? Martinez consulted her tablet again. All outer colonies are on high alert. Defense platforms are armed and ready. The colonial fleets are in position. Everyone's waiting for your orders, sir. Morrison turned back to face the room. And our new ships? The ones with the special modifications? Ready for deployment, Martinez replied. Captain Rogers and his crew finished their tests last week. All systems are working perfectly, Sullivan chuckled. Those aliens have no idea what they're walking into. They think we're just another primitive species they can push around. Morrison nodded. They're about to learn something important about humans. We don't like being told what to do. And we really don't like being threatened. He walked back to his chair and sat down. Gentlemen, ladies, the Galactic Council has just made the biggest mistake in their 3,000-year history. They think they can intimidate us into surrender. They think their big fleet and their fancy weapons will scare us into submission. Morrison's voice grew harder. They're wrong, dead wrong. We've been preparing for this day since we first learned there were other species in the galaxy. Every human colony has been fortified. Every ship has been upgraded. Every citizen has been trained. He stood up again and looked each person in the room in the eye. The aliens think they know what humans are capable of. They've studied our history, our technology, our military strength. They think they have us figured out? Sullivan was grinning. Now, but they missed something important, didn't they, sir? That's right, General. They missed the most important thing about humans. We don't just fight to win. We fight to survive. And when someone threatens our survival, we don't hold anything back. Morrison walked to the communication console. Get me a direct line to all human colonies, military bases, and defense platforms. I want to address our people directly. A few minutes later, Morrison's face appeared on screens across human space. From the farming colonies of Kepler 442 to the mining stations in the asteroid belt, humans stopped what they were doing to listen. My fellow humans, Morrison began, the Galactic Council has declared war on us. They want us to surrender our colonies and accept their rule. They think their superior numbers and advanced technology will force us to our knees. He paused, letting his words sink in. I have one response to their demands. Is that all? The broadcast continued. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council has bullied other species into submission. They've crushed civilizations and enslaved entire worlds. They think they can do the same to us. Morrison's voice grew stronger. But we're not like the other species they've conquered. We're human. We survived ice ages on Earth. We fought world wars that nearly destroyed our planet. We colonized space when everyone said it was impossible. We've never learned to quit, and we're not about to start. Now. Across human space, people were gathering around screens. In the colonies, families held each other close. On military bases, soldiers checked their weapons. In the shipyards, workers put the finishing touches on humanity's secret weapons. The Council thinks they know what we're capable of, Morrison continued. They've seen our ships, studied our technology, analyzed our military tactics. They think they have us figured out. He smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. They're about to learn that humans always have one more trick up their sleeves. When someone threatens our families, our homes, our freedom, we don't just fight back, we fight to win. The broadcast ended, but Morrison's message had been received. Across human space, the machinery of war began to move. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields powered up their engines. Weapons that had been tested in secret were loaded onto platforms. Soldiers who had trained for years put on their armor and prepared for battle. The Galactic Council wanted to know what humans were made of. They were about to find out. And they were going to regret asking the question. The massive alien war fleet moved through space like a metal storm. 50,000 ships from 13 different species traveled together toward human space. Their hulls gleamed in the starlight, and their weapons could destroy entire planets. Admiral Kexthal stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Edge. The ship was so large it had its own gravity and weather systems. Through the viewing windows he could see the other vessels in his fleet stretching out like a river of stars. Bring up the tactical display, Kexthal ordered. A holographic map appeared in the air, showing the human colonies scattered across several star systems. Red dots marked each human world, and they looked very small compared to the massive alien fleet approaching them. Commander Zillith materialized beside him. Her species was made of living crystal, and her body sparkled with blue and green light. She commanded the Etherian fleet, known for their speed and precision weapons. "My scouts have returned from human space," Zillith reported. Her voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "The humans have approximately 2,000 ships total. Most of them appear to be converted cargo vessels with weapons bolted on." Kexthal's 4 eyes glowed with satisfaction. 2,000 ships against our 50,000? This will be over quickly. General Throck approached the planning table. He was the leader of the Hive Fleet, and his insect-like body clicked and buzzed as he moved. His species had conquered dozens of worlds by overwhelming their enemies with sheer numbers. "My analysis confirms the Etherian report," Throck said, his mandibles clicking together. "Human technology is decades behind our own. They still use primitive chemical rockets in some areas. Their energy shields are weak, and their weapons are mostly kinetic projectiles." The 3 commanders looked at the holographic display showing human defenses. Each human colony had a few defense platforms and small patrol ships. Compared to the alien armada, they looked like toys. "Perhaps we should capture some of them alive," suggested Commander Zillith. "It would be interesting to study a species that developed space travel so quickly yet remained so primitive." Kexthal nodded. "Agreed. We will demonstrate our power, accept their surrender, and then decide which worlds to keep and which to destroy as examples." What the aliens did not know was that human intelligence had been watching their fleet for weeks. Hidden monitoring stations scattered throughout space tracked every ship movement and recorded every communication. Captain Danny Rogers stood on the bridge of his ship, the Relentless. The vessel looked rough and patched compared to the sleek alien ships, but appearances could be deceiving. Rogers was a 30-year veteran of the Space Navy, and he had volunteered for this mission. "Sir," called Lieutenant Amy Baker from her sensor station, "the alien fleet just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system." "I count 800 ships in this first wave," Rogers nodded grimly. The enemy was following the exact pattern that human intelligence had predicted. They would test the outer defenses first, expecting easy victories that would demoralize the human colonies. "Signal Admiral Morrison," Rogers ordered. "Tell him the fish are biting." Chief Engineer Pete Johnson looked up from his console. He was a big man with grease-stained hands and a mind that understood engines better than most people understood their own families. "Sir, all modifications are complete. The reactor is running at full power, and the new weapon systems are ready." The new weapon systems were humanity's secret. For months, human engineers had been working on upgrades that would surprise the aliens. The weapons looked ordinary from the outside, but they incorporated technology that the Galactic Council had never seen before. "Good," Rogers replied, "because we're about to give these aliens their first lesson in human creativity." Meanwhile, on the alien flagship, the commanders were making their final preparations. They had studied human military tactics and found them crude and predictable. Human ships fought in straight lines, used simple weapons, and followed basic strategies. "The humans appear to be concentrating their forces around their major colonies," reported Zillith. "They are abandoning their outer settlements and falling back to defend their core worlds." Kexthal studied the tactical display. "Standard defensive doctrine. They hope to make us pay a high price for each world we take. It will not matter. Our firepower is overwhelming." General Throck's insect eyes glittered. "My hive ships will swarm their defenders. No matter how well they fight, they cannot stand against our numbers." The alien fleet began to spread out, preparing to attack multiple human colonies simultaneously. Their plan was simple: demonstrate their superior firepower, accept human surrender, and then divide up the conquered territories. But as they approached the first human settlements, something unexpected happened. The human ships did not retreat. Instead, they moved forward to meet the alien fleet. "Sir," reported one of Kexthal's officers, "the humans are advancing toward us. Their ships are moving into attack formation." Kexthal was puzzled. "That makes no sense. They must know they are outnumbered. Why would they attack?" The answer came when the first human ship opened fire. Instead of the weak energy beams the aliens expected, a stream of projectiles shot out at incredible speed. The tungsten slugs hit an alien cruiser and punched straight through its shields as if they were made of paper. "Impossible!" Zilith exclaimed as her ship's sensors registered the hit. "Those projectiles are moving at a significant fraction of light speed. How are they accelerating them to such velocities?" The aliens were about to learn their first lesson about human engineering. While they had focused on perfecting energy, weapons, and defensive shields, humans had spent centuries perfecting the art of throwing things very, very fast. More human ships joined the attack. Their weapons looked primitive, but they were firing projectiles that moved faster than anything the aliens had seen. The kinetic energy was so high that alien shields, designed to stop energy beams, were useless against them. "All ships, return." "Fire!" Kexthel ordered. The alien fleet unleashed a barrage of plasma bolts and energy beams. The space between the fleets lit up like a fireworks display, but the human ships did not explode as expected. Their hulls were covered in a strange material that seemed to absorb the alien weapons. Some ships took direct hits and kept fighting. Others seemed to shed damaged sections and keep moving forward. Chief Engineer Johnson grinned as he watched. "His modifications work. That's ceramic metal composite armor backed by reactive plating," he explained to his crew. "The aliens are trying to melt us with heat weapons, but our armor turns that heat into thrust for our engines." The human ships were not just surviving the alien attack. They were getting stronger. The more the aliens shot at them, the faster and more maneuverable they became. Captain Rogers watched the battle unfold with satisfaction. "All ships execute Plan Hammer. Show these aliens what human engineering can do when we put our minds to it." The human ships suddenly changed tactics. Instead of fighting at long range, they charged straight at the alien fleet. Their armor glowed red-hot from absorbing energy weapons, but they kept coming. "They're ramming us!" screamed one of Kexthel's officers as a human ship smashed into an alien destroyer. But instead of both ships being destroyed, the human vessel emerged from the other side. Battered but still fighting, General Throck tried to swarm the human ships with his smaller vessels. But the humans were ready for that too. They deployed weapons that released clouds of tiny projectiles. Each one was no bigger than a grain of sand, but they moved so fast that they turned the insect ships into debris. "This is Gold Leader," came a voice over the human communication channels. "Bug spray is working perfectly. Recommend all units switch to anti-swarm munitions." The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to ignore the rules of space combat. Human ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting. Human weapons that looked primitive were devastatingly effective. Human tactics that seemed suicidal were actually carefully planned strategies. As the first day of battle ended, Admiral Kexthel stared at his casualty reports in disbelief. His fleet had lost over 200 ships. The humans had lost 37. "This is not possible," he whispered. "Our intelligence report said they were primitive. Our weapons are superior. Our shields are stronger. How are they winning?" Commander Zilith's crystalline form flickered with confused colors. "I believe we may have underestimated them. Their technology is not primitive, it is simply different." General Throck clicked his mandibles nervously. "Different how?" "We have spent centuries perfecting elegant solutions to warfare," Zilith explained. "Our weapons are precise, our shields are efficient, our tactics are refined." The humans appear to have taken a different approach, which is? They have spent centuries learning how to break things more effectively than anyone else in the galaxy. As the alien fleet regrouped and tried to understand what had happened, the human ships took up defensive positions around their colonies. They had sent a clear message: "We are not the weak, primitive species you expected." The aliens were beginning to realize that their easy victory might not be so easy after all. And somewhere in the human fleet, Captain Rogers was already planning the next surprise he would give them. The battle for Haven's Rest began when the sun rose over the farming colony. The alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. their ships creating a dark wall against the stars. The colonists had been evacuated days ago, but the planet was far from defenseless. Admiral Kexthal opened communication channels to the planet below. His voice echoed across the empty fields and abandoned farms. "Humans of Haven's Rest, you will surrender immediately or we will destroy everything you have built here. You have 1 hour to respond." The reply came not from frightened farmers, but from Colonel Ben Harris, commander of the system's defense forces. Harris was a former Marine who had volunteered to defend the outer colonies. His voice was calm and steady. "This is Colonel Harris, Haven's Rest Defense Command. You want our world? Come and take it." Kexthal's 4 eyes blazed with anger. These humans were supposed to be cowering in fear, begging for mercy. Instead, they were issuing challenges. "Very well, you have chosen destruction. The alien fleet. Move forward in attack formation. 800 warships, each one larger and more advanced than anything humans had built before. Their weapons could melt mountains, and their shields could stop anything the Council had ever faced, but as they approached the planet, space around them suddenly erupted with weapons fire. Hidden asteroid bases opened up first. What had looked like ordinary space rocks revealed themselves to be massive gun platforms. Magnetic railguns launched tungsten slugs at speeds that turned them into streaks of light. The projectiles punched through alien shields like bullets through paper. "Commander," Zilith watched in shock as 3 of her cruisers simply vanished in brilliant explosions. "Impossible. Our shields should stop any kinetic weapon." But the tungsten slugs were moving at 20% of light speed. At that velocity, they carried more energy than nuclear weapons. No shield in the galaxy had been designed to stop something moving that fast. The planet's surface erupted next. Hidden installations across Haven's Rest revealed themselves as the camouflage fell away. Missile silos opened and launched their payloads. But these were not ordinary warheads. Each missile contained a hunter-killer drone equipped with its own artificial intelligence. The drones could think, adapt, and learn from each battle. They swarmed toward the alien fleet like angry metal wasps. "New contacts!" shouted one of Kexthal's officers. Hundreds of small craft approaching from the planet. They're moving in unpredictable patterns. The drones weaved through space, avoiding plasma bolts and energy beams. When they reached the alien ships, they did not explode. Instead, they attached themselves to hulls and began cutting through armor with focused laser beams. General Throck tried to swat them away with his point defense guns, but the drones were too small and too fast. "They're like parasites," he buzzed angrily. "How do we fight something we cannot hit?" The answer came when Captain Rogers led his squadron out from behind the system's gas giant. The human ships looked battered and crude compared to the sleek alien vessels, but they moved with deadly purpose. "All ships, this is Rogers," the captain broadcast to his fleet. "Remember, we're not here to look pretty. We're here to win. Execute plan, Sledgehammer." The human ships spread out in what looked like a chaotic charge, but it was actually a carefully planned maneuver. They had studied alien tactics for months and knew exactly how to exploit their weaknesses. The aliens fought like they were performing a dance. Their movements were elegant and precise, following thousands of years of military tradition. But humans fought like they were solving a problem, adapting and changing as the situation demanded. "Sir," Lieutenant Baker reported from her sensor station, "their plasma weapons are barely scratching our armor. The new composites are working better than we hoped." Engineer Johnson grinned from his station. "That's because they're shooting at something that doesn't exist in their universe. They've never seen ceramic metal matrix composites backed by reactive armor plates." The human ships had been designed specifically to fight the Galactic Council. Every piece of armor, every weapon system, every tactical program had been created to counter alien advantages. Where alien weapons used heat and energy, human armor absorbed that energy and used it to power their own systems. Where alien tactics relied on formation fighting, human ships operated independently, making their own decisions in real time. General Throck decided to use his favorite tactic. "All hive ships, swarm formation, overwhelm them with numbers." Thousands of small insect ships poured out of the larger vessels, surrounding the human fleet like a cloud of angry bees. This tactic had worked against every enemy the hive species had ever faced, but Captain Sally Henderson was ready for them. She led a wing of human fighters armed with weapons the aliens had never seen before. "This is Gold Squadron," she announced. "Time to spray some bugs?" The human fighters released clouds of micro-munitions. Each projectile was no bigger than a marble, but they moved at incredible speeds and could change direction in flight. The hive ships found themselves flying into walls of destruction. "Confirmed kills on 15 hive ships," Henderson reported. "These bugs really don't like our new toys." As the battle raged, Admiral Kexthal began to realize that his easy victory was turning into a nightmare. The humans were not just resisting. They were winning. The final shock came when the humans revealed their most unexpected weapon. Ships that could ram through alien formations and survive. The battering ram-class vessels looked like flying fortresses covered in armor and weapons. Captain Joe Mitchell commanded the ship Unbreakable, the largest of the ramming vessels. His ship was designed for one purpose: to smash through enemy lines and keep fighting. "This is the Unbreakable," Mitchell announced as his ship charged toward a formation of Vorthan battleships. "Time to show you alien jerks what human engineering looks like." The massive ship plowed into the alien formation like a train hitting a fence. Plasma bolts and energy beams washed over its hull, but the armor held. The ship's ram prow, made of compressed diamond and titanium, punched through alien hulls like they were made of tin foil. The Unbreakable emerged from the other side of the formation, battered but intact. Behind it, 3 alien battleships drifted. "In pieces. Ram attack successful," Mitchell reported cheerfully. "Ready for another pass if anyone wants to volunteer." The alien fleet was in chaos. Ships that should have been invincible were being destroyed by weapons that should not have worked. Tactics that had conquered dozens of species were useless against human creativity, Commander. Zillith's crystalline form flickered with confused colors. "How are they doing this? Their technology readings show they are centuries behind us?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Colonel Harris, still broadcasting from the planet's surface, explained it simply. "You aliens spent thousands of years perfecting your weapons. We spent thousands of years perfecting war itself." The human ships regrouped and prepared for another attack. They had taken damage, but their modular design meant they could swap out broken parts and keep fighting. Some ships had lost entire sections but continued to operate normally. "Sir," reported one of Rogers' officers, "we've lost about 20% of our armor plating, but all primary systems are operational." "Good enough," Rogers replied. "In human warfare, if you can still shoot and still move, you're still in the fight." The alien commanders tried to adapt to human tactics, but every time they thought they understood the pattern, the humans changed it. Ships that fought like brawlers suddenly became precision snipers. Vessels that had been defending suddenly went on the attack. As the second day of battle began, Admiral Kexthal stared at his status reports in disbelief. His fleet had lost over 400 ships. The humans had lost 63. "This cannot be happening," he whispered. "We are the Galactic Council. We have ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. How can these primitives be defeating us?" General Throck's mandibles clicked nervously. "Perhaps they are not as primitive as we believed." Commander Zillith studied the sensor readings from the battle. "I am beginning to understand something troubling. We have been fighting as we always fight, using tactics that have worked for millennia. But the humans are not fighting like any species we have encountered before." "What do you mean?" Kexthal demanded. "Every other species we have conquered fought to defend themselves. The humans are not just defending, they are actively trying to destroy us. There is a difference." The battle for Haven's Rest continued. For 3 more days. Each day, the aliens expected to break through human defenses. Each day, they were pushed back with heavier losses. The humans fought with a ferocity that shocked their enemies. When their ships were damaged, they repaired them in the middle of battle. When they ran out of ammunition, they rammed enemy vessels. When their weapons failed, they found new ways to fight. On the final day, the remaining alien ships retreated from the system. They had lost over half their force, while the humans had lost less than 100 vessels. As the alien fleet limped away, Captain Rogers addressed his surviving crews. "Ladies and gentlemen, we just taught the Galactic Council their first lesson about humanity. When someone threatens our homes, our families, our freedom, we don't just fight back, we fight to win." The emergency meeting on Centauri Prime was unlike any in the 3,000-year history of the Galactic Council. Representatives from all 13 species gathered in the Crystal Hall, but this time there was no arrogance in their voices. Fear had replaced confidence. High Chancellor Morvik's ancient crystalline form pulsed with deep red colors that showed his rage. Reports from across the galaxy told the same impossible story. Human fleets were not just defending their colonies. They were winning battles against overwhelming odds. "This is unacceptable," Morvik's voice shook the entire hall. "We have lost over 2,000 ships in the past week." 2,000? Against a species that should have surrendered after the first battle. Admiral Kexthol stood before the council, his gray form smaller than usual. His defeat at Haven's Rest had cost him much of his authority, but his reports were too important to ignore. "The humans are not fighting like any species we have encountered," Kexthol said quietly. "Their ships seem designed specifically to counter our weapons and tactics. They adapt to our strategies faster than we can change them." Commander Zillith materialized beside him, her crystalline body flickering with worried blue light. "At the Kepler 442 system, my fleet encountered human vessels that appeared from nowhere. They struck with weapons that seemed to bend space itself. 3 of my dreadnoughts were destroyed by weapons that should not exist." General Throck clicked, his mandibles nervously. "At Ross 128, my hive fleets were systematically destroyed. The humans predicted every move we made. It was as if they knew our tactics better than we did." Morvik's form grew larger as his anger increased. "Then we will show them true power, activate the Omega protocols, bring forth the planet killers, summon the star destroyers. If these humans want to see what the Galactic Council can do when truly threatened, they will learn." The Omega protocols were the Council's ultimate weapons. Ships the size of moons that could crack planets in half. Weapons that could turn stars into bombs. Technology so terrible that they had only been used 3 times in galactic history, but as the massive dreadnought, fleets began to move toward human space. Humanity was preparing surprises of its own, on Earth. Admiral Morrison stood in the war room, watching reports from across human territory. The first phase of the war had gone better than anyone had dared hope. Now came the real test. "The aliens are bringing out their biggest toys," reported Colonel Martinez. "Our deep space monitors are detecting ships larger than anything we've seen before. Some of them are the size of small asteroids." General Sullivan studied the tactical displays with interest. "Planet killers, huh? Well, I guess they're finally taking us seriously." Morrison nodded grimly. "Signal all fleet commanders. It's time for Phase 2, release the new ships." Across human space, massive shipyards that had been hidden for decades suddenly came alive. Deep in asteroid fields and behind gas giant moons, construction facilities revealed themselves. Ships began launching that made the previous human fleet look like toy boats. Captain Rogers, now promoted to Commodore after his victory at Haven's Rest, took command of his new ship, the Defiance. The vessel was 3 times larger than his previous command and armed with weapons that most humans didn't even know existed. "Sir," reported his new tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Grace Kelly, "all systems are operational. The new reality check weapons are online and ready for testing." Chief Engineer Johnson, also promoted after his innovations proved so effective, grinned from his expanded engineering section. "And every ship in the new fleet has our latest surprise." The aliens wanted to see advanced human technology. They're about to get their wish. The reality check cannon was humanity's answer to alien technological superiority. It didn't just destroy enemy ships, It destroyed them in ways that violated everything the aliens thought they knew about physics. The weapon created localized distortions in space and time. Ships hit by reality check beams could age thousands of years in seconds, turning to dust. Others might find themselves turned inside out or existing in several different dimensions at once. Captain Mitchell, now commanding an entire battle group of improved ramming ships, addressed his crews over the communication system. Ladies and gentlemen, we've shown the aliens that humans don't break easily. Now we're going to show them what happens when they threaten our families. The new ramming ships were even more impressive than their predecessors. They could phase through solid matter, appearing inside enemy vessels to destroy them from within. They could split into multiple smaller ships when needed, or combine with others to form massive battle platforms. As the human fleet prepared for the next phase of the war, intelligence reports showed just how seriously the aliens were taking the threat. The Council was mobilizing its reserve fleets, recalling ships from across the galaxy and activating weapons that hadn't been used in centuries. "They're scared," observed Colonel Martinez as she reviewed the alien fleet movements. For the first time in their history, the Galactic Council is actually afraid of losing a war. Sullivan chuckled. "Good. Fear makes people make mistakes. And we're very good at taking advantage of mistakes." The first major battle of Phase 2 took place in the Tau Ceti system. The aliens brought a fleet of over 5,000 ships, including 3 planet killers and a star destroyer. The massive vessels dwarfed everything around them, their weapons capable of destroying entire solar systems. Admiral Kexthal commanded the fleet from his new flagship, a vessel so large it had its own internal star for power. "This time there will be no surprises," he announced to his commanders. "We will destroy the human fleet, then sterilize every human world. They will serve as an example to any other species that dares challenge us." But when the alien fleet arrived at Tau Ceti, they found something unexpected waiting for them. The human fleet that emerged to meet them was unlike anything they had seen before. Commodore Rogers led the charge in the Defiance. His ship was surrounded by a field that made it look like it was in several places at once. Reality seemed to bend around the vessel as it moved through space. "All ships, this is Rogers," he broadcast to the human fleet. "Time to introduce our new friends to some laws of physics they haven't met yet. Execute Plan Reality Storm." The human ships opened fire with their reality check weapons. Space around the alien fleet began to twist and change. Some alien ships aged rapidly, their hulls corroding and crumbling in seconds. Others found themselves twisted into impossible shapes that hurt to look at. Commander Zillith watched in horror as her flagship's sensors went insane trying to process what they were seeing. "This is impossible. They're violating the fundamental laws of the universe." "No," came a calm voice over the communication channels. It was Lieutenant Commander Kelly, now commanding her own reality warping ship. "We're just using laws you haven't discovered yet. Reality has more options than you thought." The aliens tried to respond with their most powerful weapons. The planet killers fired beams that could crack worlds, but the energy simply disappeared when it hit the human ships. The humans had learned to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making them nearly impossible to target. General Throck's hive ships swarmed toward the human fleet, but the humans were ready for that too. Captain Henderson led a squadron of fighters that could be in dozens of places at once, each one real enough to cause damage. "This is Gold Squadron," Henderson reported cheerfully. "Target-rich environment. These bugs really need to learn about quantum mechanics." The Star Destroyer, the aliens' most feared weapon, prepared to fire its ultimate attack. The massive beam could turn a star into a supernova, destroying everything in the system. But when it fired, something unexpected happened. The human ships didn't try to avoid the beam. Instead, they absorbed it. The energy that should have destroyed them was converted into power for their own weapons. Captain Mitchell's ramming ship, the new Unbreakable, had been hit directly by the Star Destroyer beam. Instead of being vaporized, it began to glow with absorbed energy. "Thanks for the power boost," Mitchell announced as his ship, now glowing like a small star, charged toward the alien flagship. "Let me return the favor." The new Unbreakable didn't just ram the alien ship. It phased through the hull and materialized inside the vessel's reactor core. The explosion that followed lit up the entire system. As the battle continued, the aliens realized they were not just losing. They were being systematically dismantled by an enemy that seemed to ignore the basic rules of reality. Admiral Kexthal, watching his fleet being destroyed by impossible weapons, finally understood what they were facing. "They're not just more advanced than we thought," he whispered to his remaining officers. "They've moved beyond our understanding of what's possible." The battle ended with the complete destruction of the alien fleet. All 5,000 ships, including the Planet Killers and the Star Destroyer, were either destroyed or captured by human forces, but the most shocking discovery came when human boarding parties explored the captured alien vessels. They found records showing that the Galactic Council had been using the same basic technologies for thousands of years, never innovating, never changing. "No wonder they were so confident," Morrison observed when he received the reports. "They thought the universe had rules that couldn't be broken." The final battle took place in the Vega system, where the Galactic Council had assembled the largest war fleet in galactic history. 100,000 ships from 13 species filled the space around the star, their combined firepower enough to destroy entire star clusters. High Chancellor Morvik commanded the armada from his personal super dreadnought, the Eternal Dominion. The ship was the size of a small moon and contained weapons that could reignite dead stars. Around him floated the desperate remains of the Council's leadership. "This ends today," Morvik declared, his ancient crystalline form pulsing with deadly light. "We will not merely defeat these humans. We will erase them from existence. Let every species in the galaxy learn what happens to those who challenge the natural order." Admiral Kexthal, his confidence shattered by repeated defeats, nodded grimly. "Our scouts report human fleet movements throughout their territory. They appear to be abandoning their colonies and retreating to their home system." "Good," Morvik replied. "They run to Earth to make their final stand. We will crush them there and end this nightmare once and for all." But as the massive alien armada moved deeper into human space, they began to notice something strange. The human colonies were not just abandoned, they were completely empty. Every world they passed showed signs of total evacuation, with not a single human life remaining. Commander Zillith reported uneasily, "Chancellor, the evacuation patterns make no sense. The humans have removed every civilian, every non-essential worker, every piece of valuable equipment. It is as if they are clearing the entire battlefield." She was right to be worried. What the aliens did not understand was that humanity had not retreated. They had simply removed all the things they wanted to protect. Every human civilian was safe in hidden shelters. Every irreplaceable artifact was secured. And every restraint on human military doctrine had been removed. When the alien fleet reached the Sol system, they found it apparently undefended. No massive human fleet waited for them. No orbital fortresses blocked their path. Just empty space and the small blue world that had given birth to humanity. "This is too easy," muttered General Throck, his insect eyes scanning the sensor readings. "Where are their ships? Where are their defenses?" His answer came when Admiral Morrison's voice suddenly filled every communication channel in the system. Broadcasting from Earth, his words reached across the galaxy. "Attention, Galactic Council forces. You wanted to know what humans are capable of when truly threatened. You asked us to show you our full power. You demanded to see what happens when someone tries to destroy our species." Morrison paused, and when he continued, there was something new in his voice. Not anger, not fear, but a cold certainty that made the alien commanders nervous. "You are about to find out." The trap was sprung from everywhere at once. The asteroid belt, which the aliens had ignored as harmless debris, suddenly revealed itself to be the largest weapons platform ever constructed. Millions of hidden gun batteries opened fire simultaneously, filling space with streams of relativistic projectiles. The gas giants disgorged, Fleets of human ships that had been hiding in their atmospheres for months. Jupiter's great red spot, open like an eye, and Commodore Rogers emerged at the head of a battle fleet that defied description. "All ships, this is Rogers," he broadcast as the Defiance led the charge. "Execute Operation Final Answer." The human fleet that emerged from hiding was not just larger than the aliens expected. It was composed of ships that represented the absolute pinnacle of human engineering. These vessels had been built with one purpose: to end this war forever. The new ships did not look like the crude, battered vessels the aliens had fought before. These were sleek, deadly, and surrounded by fields of energy that made space itself bend around them. Captain Mitchell's new ramming ships were no longer simple battering rams. They could phase in and out of reality, appearing inside enemy vessels without warning. The immovable object materialized inside a Vorthan battlecruiser and detonated its reality check weapons from within. "Knock knock," Mitchell announced cheerfully as his ship emerged from the wreckage. "Special delivery from humanity." But the real surprise came when the humans revealed their ultimate development. They had learned to weaponize the fundamental forces of the universe itself. Lieutenant Commander Kelly, now commanding her own reality-warping battle group, demonstrated as she made an entire alien squadron simply stop existing. "Target eliminated by existential nullification," she reported calmly. "They were not destroyed. They simply never were." The alien fleet found itself fighting an enemy that had moved beyond conventional warfare. Human weapons did not just destroy ships. They removed them from reality, aged them out of existence, or turned them into energy that fed the human fleet. High Chancellor Morvik watched his supposedly invincible armada being systematically dismantled by forces that seemed to mock the laws of physics. "This is impossible. No species can develop such power. It violates everything we know about the universe." Admiral Morrison's voice answered from Earth. "That's your problem, Chancellor. You thought the universe had limits. We learned to ignore them." The battle became less a fight than a demonstration. The human ships moved through the alien formations like ghosts, untouchable and unstoppable. Every weapon the aliens fired was either absorbed, deflected, or turned back against them. General Thruck tried one final desperate gambit. "All ships ramming speed. If we cannot destroy them with weapons, we will crush them with our hulls." The remaining alien ships charged toward the human fleet in a massive suicide attack. But the humans were ready for that too. The human ships simply became intangible, allowing the alien vessels to pass harmlessly through them before solidifying and destroying their enemies from behind. As the alien fleet disintegrated around him, High Chancellor Morvik made a decision born of desperation and madness. If he could not defeat humanity, he would destroy everything. "Activate the Galaxy Killer," he commanded his remaining officers. "If we cannot rule the galaxy, then no one will have it." The Galaxy Killer was the Council's most terrible secret, a weapon that could collapse the galactic core into a black hole, destroying billions of star systems and trillions of lives. It was housed in the deepest part of his flagship, protected by layers of armor and shields, but as the weapon began to charge, something unexpected happened. Admiral Morrison appeared on Morvik's bridge, not as a hologram, not as a communication. Morrison was simply there, standing in the middle of the alien command center as if he had always been there. "Hello, Chancellor," Morrison said politely. "I thought we should talk." Morvik's crystalline form blazed with shock and fury. "Impossible! How are you here?" "My ship is surrounded by reality distortion fields. Nothing can teleport through them," Morrison smiled. "We didn't teleport. We just decided that the distance between Earth and your ship didn't exist for a few seconds. Reality is more flexible than you think." Behind Morrison, other human officers began materializing. General Sullivan appeared next to the weapons console. Colonel Martinez manifested beside the communications station. One by one, Earth's military leadership arrived on the alien flagship. "You see, Chancellor," Morrison continued, "you never understood what you were fighting. You thought humans were just another species with better weapons. But we're not just using advanced technology. We've learned to rewrite the rules of existence itself. Morvik tried to activate the Galaxy Killer but found his controls no longer responded. Sullivan grinned from the weapons station. Sorry, but we've decided that button doesn't work anymore. This is impossible, Morvik screamed. You cannot simply change reality. Watch us, Morrison replied. With a gesture from the Admiral, the Galaxy Killer weapon simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not disabled, but removed from reality as if it had never been built. The remaining alien ships found their weapons powering down, their engines stopping, their life support systems switching to minimal power. The humans had not destroyed them. They had simply decided that the alien fleet was no longer capable of fighting. War's over, folks, announced Captain Rogers over the open communication channels. Please remain calm while we figure out what to do with you all. The aftermath was unlike anything in galactic history. The mighty Galactic Council, rulers of the galaxy for 3 millennia, surrendered unconditionally to a species they had dismissed as primitive. But humanity's response surprised everyone. Instead of conquest and revenge, they offered something the galaxy had never seen: true freedom. Admiral Morrison addressed the galaxy from Earth. We didn't fight this war to become your new masters. We fought it because you threatened our freedom, and freedom is something we believe everyone deserves. Across the galaxy, species that had been enslaved for centuries found themselves liberated. The Council's oppressive laws were abolished. Trade routes were open to all species. For the first time in galactic history, every world was free to choose its own destiny. Some alien species asked to join humanity as allies. Others preferred to remain independent but friendly. A few tried to restart their own empires, but found that humanity was always watching, always ready to intervene. On behalf of the oppressed, High Chancellor Morvik, now a prisoner on Earth, asked Morrison one final question.